Good afternoon. So currently working on this 064 project. I'm going to do a 660 cylinder, so bringing it from 52 to 54 millimeter, so it'll have the same bore and stroke as a 660. I'm using a Husqvarna 288 piston. This is a Meteor 288 piston. The reason that I like these Meteor pistons is they're not super expensive, and they're probably the nicest piston you get for the price. Like I feel that this, there's some advantages to these over the OEM ones, like wider skirts. It seems that the trend with the Meteors that I've seen when I've been able to compare them to OEM or other aftermarket is the Meteor pistons have a little bit wider skirts, so it's a little bit easier to hit the 65% of the bore on the exhaust port width, which is ideal for making, decent power. So I've went with the Meteor piston here. I can show you a 660 piston that I used in a 460 big bore. So you can see that the width of the skirt here is a lot narrower. The other advantage with this piston is it has a slightly longer total height. So I could take a little bit more material off the cylinder base, and in turn I can take a little more material out of the chamber. I only want to take about 40 thousandths out of the chamber here because that's about all I could do. I've done 60, and 60 is kind of, I think, with a lot of solids, kind of your diminishing return. That's a little too much. So we're going to try 40 here. This is where, if I drop the piston in the cylinder, this is the bottom of that line. My little Sharpie line is, where it sits, when you drop it in. So I could add 20 thousandths to that. This was 70, so add 20 to it is 90, meaning that I could drop the cylinder once I got the 20 thou squish, because this piston is a little bit shorter. I think it's like 1 millimeter shorter pin to crown height. So you I don't think you have to do any trimming in the case here for the crank lobes or anything like that, because you really don't want to do that because you already are pretty limited here. So I left enough material. I wanted to leave 50 thousandths. So with that, 90 thou that I talked about, 70 thou is here, plus 20 thou for squish. That's what I'm shooting for. Probably will go a little bit over that just to be safe. And I took an extra 40 thou off of the base so that I can get, 40 thou out of the chamber. And I mean, the main purpose, I guess, with this specific, 660 cylinder is you're trying to get that exhaust roof down as much as you can to get more torque out of it. I guess I never measured one in stock form with the stock piston and cylinder, any of that, but I know that they have a lot of intake duration, and they also have a high exhaust roof, which is not ideal. So the main reason, besides increasing the compression, is to try to lower that exhaust roof. I'll make the port wider, but I'm not planning to raise it. I'll just clean it up, and I mean, that's probably going to alter it a degree or so by cleaning it up and polishing it. But yeah, so the piston, this is the piston setup. The cylinder that I found for this one, I've been waiting, looking on eBay every week for a 660 cylinder that was in decent condition. I think that's what I found here. Plating looks good on it, or good enough for me to make a test meal out of. A little bit of a project saw here, but the main thing you can kind of justify if this is a good cylinder or not by the pictures, but that's not always those pictures don't always accurately represent what you're going to get. What I like to do is I look at this little spot right here where the top cover sits, and you can see that that's not really very recessed there, whereas this cylinder, this one, I just wanted it originally because it was the cheapest one I could find for this saw, but this one's got quite a bit deeper of a gouge here, so the plating is not as of good a quality as this one. So I'm hoping that we'll make good power with this setup. Probably no fingers for the first time around here. I'd like to just see what it does, just with the port work, and see how it runs, and then maybe later, after I document how fast that it is in a couple of my test logs, then I'll come back and do some fingers in it, because this piston would allow me to put some finger ports in there, since it's got the ring locating pin centered over the intake. That's kind of one of the other advantages, like people like to use this piston in this saw, or a 272 piston in a 460 build. So yeah. Another little update is I was working on this a little bit today, but I'm just not going to have enough time to probably even complete this project this weekend because I got other projects that I got to do first that are more time sensitive than these. But I'll be able to keep chucking away at these as I go. So this 880 cylinder, the reason that I don't have this one done yet is I ran into a problem when I was trying to cut the chamber with my hand sanding mandrel. There must have been some chrome over plating here. You can kind of see where my cutter was not cutting in certain spots here. It just would not break through that chrome, my HSS cutter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mandrel specifically to hold a, I guess, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's a lathe bit that you'd use on a lathe. And it's got a carbide insert on the end of it. And it's like, I don't know, it's probably about this long, but it's brazed on there. So that I'm going to make a mandrel specifically for that so I can break through this plating in case I want to do another one of these newer 880 cylinders here. Once you get through that plating, you know, you're good to go. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about what's going on here. I'm curious to see, because I've decreased the crankcase volume because this piston's a little bit shorter. I mean, these are very marginal things, but this is a very sensitive, you know, setup here. Very minor changes make big differences here. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered all I can cover for this one. I'm hoping to have this project here done maybe next weekend. But I don't see it as realistic to have it done this weekend. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.